Welcome back to The Rich Nonprofit. This is straight talk for mission-driven women. So, you have an idea, and maybe you've had it for years, and you might be wondering if it's something you should build or if it's just a nice thought, but you're going to push it to the back of your head and then, get back to your to-do list. Today, I want to talk to you about how to know if your idea for a nonprofit is actually viable, not just meaningful, viable. As in, can this idea really be put out into the world and work? Because let's face it, passion isn't enough and caring deeply isn't enough, nor is wanting to help. You need an idea and a vision that can sustain itself, that can create true change and can grow beyond you showing up and doing everything yourself, because we know that is not going to work. So let's talk about this. The first question to ask yourself, is there a real problem? Not a problem that you think might exist, a problem that actually exists for people right now. This sounds obvious, but I watch women skip this step all the time in business and in the nonprofit world. They have an idea that they love. They can picture it. Maybe they're picturing the programs, they have a name for it, but they haven't actually verified that the problem they want to solve is a problem people are, one, experiencing, or two, want help with. So you need to know, who has this problem? How many people? What are they currently doing about it? And what's not working if there are solutions already out there and they already exist? What's not working with those programs? If you can't answer those questions, you're not ready, and that's okay. It means you're ready to do some research. And research doesn't mean just, Googling and then calling it good. It means getting out there, talking to actual humans who are living the problem that you want to solve. Ask them what they're struggling with. Ask them what they've tried. Ask them what they would help. When I was working at a nonprofit, we did human-centered design in designing our programs. And the reason we did this is because we went to the people who we were serving and we asked them what they needed, not what we thought they needed, not what our board thought they needed, but what they actually needed. And then we designed programs to help them. And if you build a nonprofit based on what you think people need instead of what they actually need, you're going to create programs that people aren't going to use. And I've seen that happen also. And you can have a beautiful mission statement. You can, have it framed on the wall for when people walk in. But if you are not helping the people you are called to serve in a way that they want the help and are going to show up, then what does it even matter, right? So don't skip that research. You want to verify that the problem is real. Second question, are there other organizations already solving this? And this isn't a bad thing if there are. If other organizations are working on this problem, it means that the problem is real, right? It means that there is a problem. And it probably means that there's funding available and that people care about this issue. But what you need to know is where you can fit into this. Maybe there are 10 organizations already doing this work, but none of them are serving your specific community. And that's a gap you can fill. Or maybe these other organizations doing the work, but their approach isn't working. So then you can come up with a different model that could work better by talking to people. And maybe there are organizations in other cities, but not in your area. So you can fill that geographic gap. Or if they're serving adults, but not youth, then there's the demographic gap. So you're not actually looking for a problem that nobody is already working on. You are looking for a gap in how the problem is being addressed, a new way of looking at it that you can take on. And if you look at the landscape and you realize that there are already way too many organizations doing exactly what you do and how you want to do it in the community that you want to serve, well, then that's important information to know before you get started. So maybe you don't need to start a new nonprofit. Maybe you can join forces with what exists, and maybe you help fund one of those organizations instead of duplicating their work, which is what a foundation does. You would give grants to people and to other nonprofits so that they can continue their work. So starting a nonprofit, just going to say, it isn't always the answer. Sometimes it's strengthening what already exists, but knowing what's out there, what's working, what isn't working, and how you can fill the gaps will help you see, okay, is this a viable idea? And can I make it a nonprofit and have my own programs? Or can I start a foundation and I raise money and then I give grants and donate? But if you see a real gap, if you see that something's not being done or not being done well, then that is viability. Okay, the third question to ask is, do you have a specific solution? Not just, I want to help moms. I want to help, single moms. That's not a solution. That's more of a feeling. A solution is specific. It's a program, an intervention, a model, something you can describe, implement, and measure. I want to help single moms becomes I run a 12-week job training program for single moms that includes skills training, interview prep, and job placement support. Do you see the difference? That first one is a desire because maybe you were a single mom, you understand the struggles. But the second one, that is a nonprofit because you're showing up with a program that will truly serve your community. And you need to be able to describe what you're actually going to do, not in vague terms, but in specific terms. Who shows up? What happens when they show up? What do they walk away with? And then there's the metrics. How do you know it worked? So if you can't answer those questions yet, that's okay. It means you're in the ideation phase, not the building phase. And viability requires specificity. You need a model you can explain, test, and improve. But that comes later. Okay, I hope I'm not overwhelming you. I just, I want you to think about, you don't have to have all these answers today, but when you are thinking about a nonprofit, this is actually what I help you with in figuring out these 4 Ps, if you will, because it's important that you grow it correctly from the beginning. So this fourth question to ask yourself is, can it sustain itself? And this is where a lot of nonprofit ideas can fall apart because you have a great idea. Maybe you're willing to fund it yourself for the first year because you've had a successful business. But then what? Where does the money come from in year 2 or year 5, year 10? And if your answer is, I will figure it out, well, that is not an answer. That is a recipe for disaster. And you don't want to do that because when you don't have the money and you have a team, that is a lot of stress that you do not want to take on. You don't need it. You're already busy. Writing grants. There's another one. That can be viable, but you really need to think about it. And just hoping that things are going to work out isn't a strategy, right? Viable nonprofits have funding models. They know where their money comes from. They have multiple revenue streams because, as we're seeing today, things change. Federal grants stop, resources dry up, and then they are back. And so you need to be prepared for that. You don't want to be dependent on one grant or one donor. When I work with clients on viability, we talk about this early, not because money is the most important thing, but because money is what keeps your doors open. Money is what pays your staff and allows you to serve more people and to compensate yourself, which is super important. And if you can't sustain it, then you're not going to be able to scale it. And if you can't scale your nonprofit, then you're limited in how much change you can create. So before you fall in love with your idea, just ask yourself, how is this going to get funded long term? What's the model? Who's going to pay for this and why would they pay? And again, you don't need the answers right now, but you need to be thinking about all of this because a nonprofit that runs out of money doesn't help anyone, and we don't want that. Okay, now the fifth question, are you the right person to build this? And this one can get a little uncomfortable, but it matters. Not every good idea is your good idea to build. You might see a problem clearly, but not have the expertise to solve it. And that's just what it is. You might have the passion, but not have proximity to the community you want to serve. And you might have resources, but you might not have the time to actually run an organization. Being the right person to build a nonprofit means that you have some combination of lived experience, expertise, relationships, resources, time, and commitment. You don't need all of those, but you do need some of them. And you can be scrappy about it for sure. You're not going to know everything. Oh my gosh, the best nonprofit founders that I know, the most successful ones, they don't have all the answers, but they do have these answers. And then they get in there, they dig in, they research, they talk to people, and they figure it out. If you don't have connections to the community that you want to serve, a little bit of a red flag, not because you can't help, but because building for a community that you're not connected to usually means building what you think they need instead of what they actually need. And as I discussed earlier, you don't want to be doing that. If you have no expertise in this area, then that's also worth examining. Can you learn? Can you partner with people who do have the expertise? Can you hire people who do know what you don't? Nothing wrong with that at all. You aren't going to be able to do it all. So you do want to find people with that expertise. And if you don't have time to actually build and run this organization, well, I mean, obviously nonprofits don't run themselves, especially in the early years. So if you're planning to hand this off to someone else from day one, well, then you might want to consider, is it really worth starting a nonprofit? Is that the right move? Or would it be better to just keep donating? And, I mean, that's on you to decide, right? As far as time, we all think that we're going to have more time later. That doesn't happen. So it's a matter of prioritizing what matters and what you want to create. Sixth question here. Can you commit for the long haul? I think it's pretty common sense, but still, I like to talk about that nonprofits aren't side projects. They're something that are going to hopefully last and scale, especially as you keep helping more people and creating more impact. So it's not really something that you try on for a year and see if it works, like an offer in your business, right? No. When you start a nonprofit, you're making a commitment to a community, to a mission, to your board, to donors, to the people you serve. And that commitment doesn't mean that you can never leave. It means that you're building something that's meant to last beyond the initial enthusiasm, dopamine hits. You're staying long-term through it all. And so I ask my clients this: are you willing to work on this for 10 years, 20 years? Is this what you want? And if it's your vision, then it's an absolute hell yes. They know right away. And that's what legacy looks like. That's when the real change happens, not in a year, but later down the road. So if you're not sure that you want to or can commit to this long-term vision, then that's worth examining. You can start smaller, or you can test the idea before you formalize it into a nonprofit. You could volunteer with an existing organization first to see if it's what you really want to do. Viability isn't just whether the idea can work. It's whether you can sustain yourself doing this work for as long as it's going to take to create that change. So I gave you a lot of questions to think about. Just to recap real quickly, you want to know that the problem is verified, that it exists, and there is a gap in how it's being addressed, and that you have a specific solution that you can describe and implement. And then you want to come up with a funding model that you can sustain this nonprofit for the long term. And you want to be the founder with the right combination of experience, expertise, and commitment, because this is a long-term commitment to your mission. And if you have all of this, you have a viable idea. And now it's time to build it. If you're missing some of these, maybe you're not ready to build. Maybe you're ready to develop the idea further, to research, to talk to people, test some assumptions that you have and figure out the gaps. And that's really smart. And that is how you build something that lasts instead of something that's going to fold in a couple of years. You don't want to put all of your heart and soul into something that is going to fade away and not work. I want your nonprofit to be viable. I want it to be successful, and I want it to be able to scale. And that's why I have my Rich Nonprofit Group program, because in 4 months, we take your idea, we validate it, then we build it, build your offers, and you go out there and you change the world and create that impact and that legacy. So to find out more details, go to the show notes. You can always DM me on Instagram if you have questions. I would love to help you build your nonprofit. So either way, whatever you decide, asking these questions now is going to save you years of struggle. And this is what I want for you. I don't want you to struggle when you have this big vision and you know that you are called to serve people. You've got this. And I will see you next time on The Rich Nonprofit.